Hi guys, welcome to MELS, Media Education Learning Simpler, where we sail through all your academic worries from the field of media and communications. Let us proceed with today's discussion. Hi, today we are talking about mass communication, and the topic that we are discussing is types and barriers of communication. Talking of types of communication, there can be different typologies on the basis of which we can distinguish amongst different types of communication. But the most common one is where we do it on the basis of the number of people involved, which gives us four types of communication: intrapersonal, interpersonal, group, and mass. Let us start off with intrapersonal communication. It is essentially communicating with oneself. People often feel like talking to themselves, or to the divine, or to the loved ones lost, or just making up conversations in their head. This is intrapersonal because it happens with oneself, and it is very vital in religious and monastic life. For those of you who have seen this film, this level of intrapersonal communication is not highly recommended. However, it is completely normal for people to talk to themselves. Next, we go to interpersonal communication. Interpersonal communication is two people talking to each other, and this is one of the most intimate forms of communication because it allows for maximum interaction in form of exchange of words as well as gestures, and it is very persuasive and influential in nature. Interpersonal communication can be broken into three stages: phatic, personal, and intimate. The phatic stage is the first, where people greet each other. They keep the conversation very formal and just talk to the point. Personal conversation is where people lower their social guard a bit and talk about general things such as daily activities, but people do not share the most important facts about them here at this stage. Lastly comes intimate stage, which is reserved for very close ones. People lower their social guard completely and talk about anything and everything from professional to personal lives. Now we move to group communication. Group communication involves three or more people. The larger the group, the lesser will be the mutual participation and understanding amongst the group members. Feedback is often less instantaneous in this kind of conversation. Group communication can be micro level or macro level. A micro level communication would still allow for one-on-one interaction amongst the constituents of the group, such as a classroom, whereas a macro level would not allow scope for one-on-one interaction amongst all the members, such as a educational summit. This is also an example of group communication, where we can see leaders of various political parties of the country interacting with the country's prime minister. Next, we move to the focus of our study, mass communication. Whenever someone wishes to reach out to a large number of people spread over a large geographical area, they tend to resort to mass communication with the help of mass media tools such as newspaper, radio, television, and so on. The Prime Minister's address to the nation, being televised, is known as mass communication. It is communication at a distance and does not allow for any immediate feedback. Now, we move to the barriers to communication. Barriers are those obstacles which do not allow communication to happen at a proper flow and reach its maximum impact. They can be classified under different heads. The first being physical barriers. Physical barriers are four in number, such as competing stimulus, environmental stress, subjective stress, and ignorance of the medium. Competing stimulus is a parallel conversation or a lot of background noise which tends to compete for your attention, and does not let you concentrate on the communication you are being a part of. Environmental stress is where you feel too hot or too cold or are under the glare of a lot of people and feel that kind of stress of being in that particular environment at the point of communication. Subjective stress is a person's own inability to concentrate on a conversation due to some kind of tension or anxiety going on in their mind. And ignorance of the medium is lack of knowledge of how the medium works. For example, if I have not been trained on how to use maps ever in my life, I would find it difficult to use maps for my professional instructions. Next, we move to psychological barriers. These are 3 in number: self-image, resistance to change, and defensiveness and fear. Though the names are very self-explanatory and might seem similar in nature, there is a fine line of difference between these 3. Self-image is how we project ourselves and how we tend to neglect any communication which hampers this image that we have of ourselves. We do not feel like accepting change unless and until it is convincingly for our own good, and that is why we resist change. It becomes a barrier to proper communication which may be motivating us towards some kind of change. And the last one is defensiveness and fear. It is the inbuilt nature of a man to justify his actions no matter what the situation may be. This kind of defensiveness becomes an obstruction in proper flow of communication. We often see that young children do not share their mistakes with us because they fear being scolded because of their actions. This kind of fear is a barrier to communication. Now we move to linguistic and cultural barriers. Dialects. We often find people from various nations having different accents while speaking English. Even in India, if you have been to the state of Uttar Pradesh, you would know how the same language Hindi is spoken in various different dialects throughout the state. This shows that different dialects can be a problem for people to understand the clear-cut meaning of what is being said. Next, we come to semantics. As a word, semantic means pertaining to language. If I give you a statement, the bird sanctuary was full of cranes, you might take cranes to be the bird crane, but someone might also take cranes to be the machine crane. This is what happens when different words have multiple meanings in the same language, and it may cause a confusion in the minds of the people who are involved in the communication process. Next, we go to stereotyping and prejudices. Stereotyping is essentially overgeneralizing a set of people based on the community they come from. Like considering that all Bengalis love fish or all Gujaratis are very business oriented. This kind of generalization leads to prejudice and bias against people who do not match our characteristics. Last comes ethnocentrism. This is the process of dividing us and them and instilling the thought in someone's mind that whatever is us is good and whatever is them is bad. This is why people often do not clearly communicate with people who belong to the them category, be it on the basis of caste, creed, religion, gender, or whatever. The last set of barriers is mechanical barriers. Technical incompetency, technical failure, and prejudice against a technology. Technical incompetency is an individual's own inability to understand the workings of a medium. When the COVID-19 pandemic infused lockdown was implemented in India, teachers all over the country were finding it very difficult to conduct online classes because they were not well aware with the workings of different video conferencing platforms. Technical failure is something beyond a person's reach, something like a network failure or a device breaking down. This would lead to them not being able to establish a proper channel to communicate with the others. Last is prejudice against the technology. This is a dislike towards the mode of communication or the application being used. This may lead to a person neglecting the nitty-gritties of the platform, and he or she may not be able to grasp the entire communication being yielded to them. This brings us to an end of types and barriers of communication. And in the forthcoming videos, we would explore more about the phenomena of communication. Thank you. So that was all for today. I hope you liked this video. Do share it with friends who you think may benefit from this. If you have any doubts or suggestions, do reach out to me in the comment section or on the FB page. Hope to see you soon with the next discussion. Thank you.